Well, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. Welcome to this week's Tech Talk. My name is Tri Nguyen. I am the Senior Product Manager for Security Products and also Marketing Development Manager here at Zyxel US. I hope you're having a good day today and your work week and this new quarter that's coming up. But we wanted to share to you about kind of a new aspect. I mean, in terms of people have been waiting for this for quite a long time. The fact that we have new security defenses that have joined the Nebula family today. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And as usual, during most tech talks, I love to have your participation, your just involvement. So if you have any questions at any point in time of my discussion and my presentation, please feel free to use the question and answer section that you could find in the Zoom. And just type that there and I will see that and I will try to answer them as I can. But again, just welcome to this instance of Tech Talk this week. And we do this every week or so to talk about different subjects. So if you're looking for future webinars or looking at some of our older previous topics that we've talked about through Tech Talk, please feel free to check that out on our website today. Well, let's go ahead and just jump right in. We have a lot of slides to cover, but it's all about working with Nebula and Nebula together. We have a lot of messaging over the last several months about Nebula, because Nebula we think is what is the future and what the cloud platform provides for us and for you as partners. Again, thank you for being partners with us here at Zyxel or thinking about being a partner with Zyxel. We'd like to be working with you on all those types of ways. And now if you're new to Zyxel, I just want to go through a couple slides about who we are. We are Zyxel Networks, 32 years in the networking industry. 100 million devices with 600 employees worldwide. 700,000 businesses work with Zyxel solutions, and we serve 150 markets globally worldwide. We are split into 3 regions with the 3 sales managers right now at Zyxel Networks, David, Andy, and Jacob, which manage the East, the West, and the Central in that order. And so if you have any questions regarding product or solutions or getting support, either from distribution, whatever it is, you want to make sure you involve these 3 gentlemen here to make sure that they can get your, everything running smoothly, and they are your advocates. So please definitely use them for that. Here at Zyxel, we're internationally recognized for our innovation and design for our products that we design both hardware and software throughout for all different types of scenarios and applications. We've been certified. We're one of the few vendors who are out there have been certified for over 20 years consecutively at ICSA certifications for our firewalls. And that's part of the division in Verizon that makes sure that products are interoperable and can work together in all different ways, within the industry here. So making sure that products are doing what they're supposed to do and also interop with other, which is very important when you're working with mixed networks, because we are solutions driven. We are here to work with you to provide an end-to-end solution in many cases, and working with you as partners to deliver what you need and what your customers need. We want to be able to provide all those kinds of aspects to make your management, your life easier to running these customers or to helping these customers do what they need to do for their business and managing their networks. So we provide that end-to-end solution, comprehensive portfolio of product security, wireless, Ethernet switching with fiber connectivity, gateway solutions with routers and hotspot functionality, network management, both in the cloud and on standalone mode. But today we're going to be talking about more on the cloud side of things, because Nebula has been an incredible platform for us. Over 200,000 devices currently are on the Nebula platform. And so we've achieved that, and it continues to grow pretty much kind of exponentially when you look at the growth chart, because we find that more and more devices, more and more people are gravitating to want to use the cloud solution, because you can launch Nebula and pretty much launch the network capabilities, configurations, and your devices can be connected, configured, and monitored with just a matter of minutes by being able to just register the device using a QR code that's either on the box of the package or on the belly label of the device. So initial setup is really easy, especially if you just have somebody who's pre-configured the application for that particular customer for that particular site, and it can pretty much download the firmware, download the configuration once it gets internet connectivity. So that's really the advantage of using the cloud for large scale, deployment, auto provisioning, and those kinds of applications where you want to hit a lot of different customers without having to spend the resource to go and physically do the install. You can literally do contactless installation if you'd like. and then just have a basic install kit instruction that just says, hey, plug in these devices together in this kind of manner, and we'll take it from there. Once it gets internet connectivity, you have visibility of it in the Nebula cloud. And again, that's where the advantage of Nebula is. And so we're continuing to evolve and to customize and provide more useful functionalities through Nebula. And it's evolved over the last 3 years with partners feedback, with you as customers and your customer feedback on how to do it. What information is pertinent. We say no single pane is no gain, right? So we have a single pane of glass here within our Nebula structure, being able to organize them, multi-tenant organization. You can have multiple customers and each customer has their own individual sites, and you can view and you can drill into all of those networks and be able to see what is going on, get an overview of that network status. And you can customize these widgets as well. So each one of your customers, depending on what you're monitoring or what maybe information is valuable to you and your technical team, you're able to put and customize those bits of information to find out how much bandwidth they're using, what websites they're going to, any alerts and alarms, all of that information in real time traffic summary for you to view. And also we have a dedicated app as well to get notifications. So you can send notifications when something goes wrong with the particular site, and be able, again, manage each one of them independently if you'd like. So each one of your customers can be independent. You can also give visibility to your customer. Maybe you have an IT manager who wants visibility on what's going on and see that dashboard, but not make any changes. You can give them access to that view. And you also can keep up with all the different types of security profiles for all your different customers. Maybe you have one customer that has multiple locations, multiple sites, multiple offices that you want to be able to standardize on and synchronize all of the configurations in terms of security, security profiles, maybe roaming profiles that users are using to get access within these different offices as they travel. You can keep those all up to date. You can keep them all synchronized together. Again, power of the cloud is that you can have the central location to back up all that information and be able to give out and to be able to push all that information to all the different sites as you need to. And so you can choose which sites have what profiles and then be able to optimize that and update that. And especially when there's changes that are involved where you may have maybe new policies that come about or maybe new users that need to be added to that entire system, you can do that within the cloud, and that is then populated across the board without having to go in and doing every one of those locations individually. You can now do it just from a single location. You also have access to all sorts of troubleshooting tools, and that's the part of the visibility that the cloud you typically don't have when you're working with standalone. When in the past, when you would set up kind of a managed service or managed network, you would have to build like a VPN tunnel. You would have to build some way to get a backdoor into that network or into the device itself, the GUI, in order to see logs, or you would have to send all those logs all the way to like a third party like syslog server that can then digest all that information and then give you alerts and alarms. And then also when you're trying to troubleshoot, you either have to have like a PC on site location. And so it's very cumbersome in terms of trying to troubleshoot, especially if there's something maybe going on in the network that you have no visibility. Some partners actually are still using unmanaged devices within those networks. And for me, that's a little bit kind of, as an IT person, I'm always wanting to know or at least have an access or an ability to know what is going on that network, right? So if you have nothing there and that's manageable, it gives you no insight to what's going on, you're pretty much kind of hands off. I have no clue what's going on that network. You just know that they're not working because the customer is complaining. But with these tools on Nebula, and the Nebula Control Center is packed with a lot of remote tools that help you to kind of diagnose a lot of these kind of things, being able to access the device's remote CLI to access certain commands, be able to do remote diagnostics with the fiber and the copper to look at loop links and be able to see the signal strengths of those, be able to do even speed and ping tests from those devices, and also get a topology view of how things are connected as well. So it's just, again, maybe somebody plugged in something in the wrong place, and now you can see it visualized within the Nebula system. Detailed logs and user audit information is very important as well when you have maybe certain types of verticals or applications that require for you to log if anybody makes any changes, people logging into the cloud platform or logging into the devices or making any kind of policy changes. Those get all logged, and so that you can have that as a reference to audit as you need. We work together, and since April, we've launched the USG Flex into Nebula, and that was a huge kind of opportunity for customers to now have a a real updated security appliance that provided full UTM capabilities into the Nebula platform, replacing all of our Nebula only firewalls. So the new USG Flex firewall series went in there in April, and now today we're actually starting since last week, October 5th. All the ATP series, our high-end flagship firewalls, are now within Nebula, as well as our kind of our entry-level business class firewall, our USG 20, which is very popular in the kind of the small home office or maybe small remote office type applications or for VPN. We've brought them all onto the Nebula Cloud family. So now we have a full-featured, the entire portfolio of our security is now within Nebula. So now we can do things and provide kind of a complete solution into different scales of businesses, right? To small end, to all the high end type applications where they may need some of these extra features, functions, and performance functions that's found in the ATP series. So we're really excited about that because we know there's some of you as partners have been waiting for a while now to get the ATP into Nebula. And so now that we're here, we're offering now a full featured network security functionality with the ATP series, being able to manage advanced protocols and policies, including sandboxing and reputation filters, now available in the cloud. Now, you have to remember, though, even though the feature function is part of Nebula, you still need the appropriate hardware to provide those kinds of services. So ATP USG Flexes as a standalone, it's similar. You just move them into Nebula, but they still perform those specific functions that differentiate those models from each other because they're using different types of hardware and the types of that information to make sure that those features, the sandboxing, it can function correctly in those platforms. So even though, again, it's just the same management platform, so it becomes a management platform of all these different devices. But again, it's a single pane of glass. It gives you access to all of that. And a little bit more detail about why ATP is important. Being able to use conventional, UTM in general just uses conventional UTM, which is signature based. You have to know what it is. You have to know if there's an attack, what types of signatures, behaviors, and reputations that are there in order to block it. But the ATP series, which stands for our Advanced Threat Prevention Appliance, goes beyond that because it uses zero-day attack methodologies and also sandboxing technologies. Let's see, Rusty has a question or maybe a statement. I already have several devices on the network and access via local IP. Once I add Nebula to enable it, the local access disabled IP is removed. How do I make sure I can still access the device locally instead of solely via cloud dashboard? So when you change it into a Nebula platform, it ends up becoming all Nebula platform. So once you change it into Nebula, it becomes only manageable. I mean, there are some basic web interfaces that you can use to troubleshoot the device, but everything else about it, it's all in the cloud now because there's no need for you to have that unless your internet connectivity is down. Then you would lose the local access per se, or at least the configuration. But that's kind of a bigger problem if you have no internet access. So that's kind of a part of the figuring out that part. But once it's on the internet, then it's all managed and configurable then into the cloud. So that's kind of the drawback. If you have some applications that are sensitive that in the case of the configuration doesn't change. So as long as you it's already been configured via the cloud, it will stay that even if it loses internet connectivity to the cloud. So it'll still function as it would as a standalone in that case. You just lose the manageability in the cloud. But once internet is back, then all of that is synced back up and you have that access again to the cloud. So it's just a matter of if you have a sensitive application that, if you can't have, just that one bit of, the device having to, maybe losing just kind of management during that time frame. Again, the device will still function as normal as it's been configured as if it was standalone anyways. But if you can't, lose that access, obviously you'll get alerts that you've lost access. So you'll know that you've lost connectivity. So you get all that monitoring still. But you may consider not going fully cloud in that kind of application if that's very sensitive to you. So it really depends on what you're trying to do, in overall in terms of a managed service, be able to provide that. Because in either way, even if you had remote access, you built a VPN to there and your internet went down and you had no access to it, then that obviously is still a problem. You still have to physically go there to see what's going on. But if you have the luxury of local access, then maybe you can still, do some things. You can still do troubleshooting within that. This device still has a local GUI that you can attach to. But using a cloud and using the cloud technology, it starts to make things that are unknown known, because a lot of the attacks that we've seen out there are, 0-day type attacks. So with how the ATP series works is that it uses, it detects that there is a file that it doesn't know about, and it sends that unknown threat into the cloud. We use some cloud AI and cloud intelligence to get the file. We actually execute the file in a sandbox to see what it does, and based on what it does, we analyze and we identify if it's malicious or not. Because some files, if you open up an Excel file or things like that, it may try to open up a port or open up a connection to some unknown location out of the country, or does something weird that shouldn't be for a normal file. So we're able to detect that and be able to identify it and make some intelligence and provide that as an update to the threat database into the ecosystem. And the ecosystem is all part of this cloud intelligence. And we update it in real time in the cloud, and that is synchronized so that each threat is detected, that is detected by an individual ATP, is then shared via that cloud database to all the other devices. So make sure that all the other devices that are using that cloud defense, continue to be blocked of that new threat. So we can instantly block that and be able to provide, and continue ongoing security for customers that are using that in these environments. So that's what the ATP does. It also does some reputation filtering as well. These are the models that are currently available for ATP and can be used in the cloud. If you currently have ATP series now today, you can load the latest firmware. I think it's ZLD 5.1, and you'll have then a option to then put it flexed into the Nebula cloud. ATP series, when it is bundled, in fact, all of these are bundled with 1 year gold security pack. They all include 1 year of Nebula as well. So if you have like 6 months left on your gold security and you put it into the Nebula cloud, you'll have 6 months left of Nebula control, the pro version of Nebula. But we have our ATP 100. It's all about scaling. You want to look at the UTM throughput on the number database here and use kind of a 50 to 60% of that number as your gauge on how big of a WAN connection your customer has in order to fully utilize this kind of device. So if you need more bandwidth, then you move up the chain into the higher level models, ATP 200, or you can then go to our ATP 500, 700, and 800 models to provide even further UTM. Now, if you're just looking for a kind of basic kind of connectivity, then we have the lower end models as well, without the sandboxing, without the reputation control and filtering there. Jack asked if do we have a copy of the screen? Yeah, we do have those throughputs, and it's also on our data sheets as well. So you can always download the data sheet for ATP series, and it will have all of those in a kind of in a matrix for you. You can see the comparisons not only from the throughputs, but then you can see all of the other feature sets that are there too. One thing that we've added to the Nebula, and when USGs went to Nebula, was kind of a way to handle hybrid working, right? So of course, in our day and age, there is a huge spike in demand of people working remote, working from home, but doing it in a way that most IT professionals would say is insecure, because you are connected to your home network. You have no control over the router, the wireless router, that home router, in order to provide a secure connectivity. So you're depending upon building either VPN tunnels from your laptop or for your mobile devices and all that. But what we've added to the ecosystem is what we call Secure Wi-Fi. And it's an ability to just drop in multiple different devices or different softwares or different hardware into the location and provide a secure connectivity back to the work office. So you can either do that via VPN, SSL VPN, or through a secure Wi-Fi. So that allows for you to have full access to the office network environment without having to build your separate VPN tunnels, right? So I'll show you an example of that. Let's just say you're just trying to extend the existing workplace, and this is the typical way of doing it, is using a software like Secure Extender from Zyxel. It's an IPsec client, a VPN client that you would install on your laptop or on your devices that would then make a connectivity builds a secure tunnel through your existing connection to the internet, through the internet, back to your office network. Now, I'm glad to announce as well that we have now created support for you to be able to manage tens or hundreds or even thousands of remote employees using Nebula. So you can now use Nebula to provision centralized configuration, and you also can mitigate bottlenecks and throttle the VPN client as well. So what we found out in the environment is that a lot of people who are working remote now is then throwing kind of a bottleneck into the office, meaning that your maybe your internet connectivity is not so big because the office only has a kind of a set upload speed, because that's what they're providing as download to all these remote users. And before, in the past, it was okay when you had just a few people, but now if everybody is using it and trying to gather resources, you kind of have to have a way to either throttle or to control those so that, any one person is not making everybody else suffer, from utilizing all of the bandwidth, right? So you can do that, you can create that and manage that within the Nebula platform. So it increases productivity and efficiency at work with that kind of application. Seth asked, any recommendation for third-party certificates for secure extender connections? We will have to check with that on there, Seth. I know that the third-party certificates can be an issue at sometimes for secure extender, but I'll talk to our tech support to see what they would recommend. All right. So on top of that, we have other people who are not using maybe a secure extender, maybe not software, but we've added the idea that you can then drop in an access point to those locations as a drop-in access point to provide secure Wi-Fi. It can be configured to replicate the policies, the SSID that your office is already using, but it makes a secure tunnel on its own using that AP back to the office network. So again, you don't need to have to install a VPN device or change, add ports or anything like that to the local home environment, or maybe even just a remote office environment. You can drop these APs in, and what happens is the experience of the user is the same laptop that they used in office could just be taken home and connected securely through 802.1x authentication, also two-factor type authentication, in order to get connectivity back to the office network, with, again, not having to install any kind of software on the laptop. They could just do it by connecting to that SSID. And that extends it, gives them access to like printers or network shares, really plug and play, and be able, again, you being able to have that visibility and control using the Nebula platform. So this works for our USG Flex and our ATP series. Does Nebula allow for SSL extender? I believe it does now. So we have to, I'll have to double check there, Jack. But my understanding is that it does what it through the secure extender itself, through SSL and IPsec. Now, in terms of management of it, because SSL is just an SSL tunnel, there may not be a actual management portion of that. So I'll have to double check to see how that part is configured. But I know in our IPsec version of the secure extender is now part of the Nebula platform. Whoops, went too far. So we also use what we call CDR, Collaborative Network Defense, to provide further security, but being able to respond automatically to threats, contain those devices at the edge, like your access point. So we're able to look at and identify a suspicious information or files from harmful sites, and be able to take that and be able to notify, quarantine, or block devices from getting there, and be able to make policies and update policies as necessary to, again, make sure that maybe that device is either blocked or is then segregated from the network or quarantined, to quarantine those clients from the network. So preventing them from infecting other people, or that kind of thing. So the collaborative response continues to evolve, but using Nebula as kind of their main engine for this, it allows for you to then control what's happening on the network, and combine that when you're using Zyxel devices. So using Zyxel access points and our gateways together to provide this level of additional security. And with all of that security, it's all about visibility. And like I mentioned earlier, having visibility to just access the device itself or access information that's coming from the device is very valuable to a managed service provider. So with all of the security functions, we also have that layer within the Nebula to provide security monitoring. So even more details, not just interface up and down or user information, but also you can switch into the secure reporter to gain more information, more insight into what's going on your network security. You can look at very specific viruses or malware that's being blocked, or who's it going to, and be able to centralize that and give reporting information that you can provide more detailed security response or security information to your customer. It just adds on to the reporting to what you can provide in your Nebula today. You can customize have customized reports, so you can have PDFs that are sent to the customer, just highlighting all of the things that are being prevented, how much bandwidth again they're using, what's going on the network environment. So if you're charging them a monthly fee for not only the security licenses themselves, but also for active management, active network threat protection, this is a really good tool to give to a customer and show, what the services that you are subscribed to every month is doing something, right? Because I think that's the big mental block. It's kind of like wireless, where you don't know what's going on. And with security, you don't know how much you're actually exposed to and how much is actually being protected and blocked, unless there was something specific like these kinds of reports and applications that tell you what is happening on the network. So it becomes a really valuable tool to justify or to show to your customer that the service is valuable and that it's worth, it's worth what you're paying for. So definitely it's something that, very important for us to make sure that you as partners are armed with this kind of information to provide to your customers, because then that means that they will continue to use the product, continue to use this, the licenses that are available within the system. And so speaking of licenses, we've also developed an integration with Zyxel Circle. You may have already gotten some emails as a partner about making sure that you sign up for Circle. If you have a My Zyxel account, in the top right corner, there'll be the 3 boxes. It's kind of like the drop-down menu. You click on that and go to Circle, and it will ask you to register. And so you would register your My Zyxel account to Circle. And what that does is we get the information. We then approve you in Circle for your partner tier discount. So if you're a gold, a silver, or a bronze partner, we load that in there so that when you go to Circle to do your licensing purchases and stuff, they will reflect those prices that you should have for our partnership. It's designed to simplify the licensing and subscription services. You can add devices that are currently being managed, like under your My Zyxel, if you're managing other customers' devices per se, or you can add your other customers' devices to your Circle account so that you can continue to manage their licenses. But it gives you an easy way for you to see what licenses are coming up for renewal. You can do your own reporting. You can see, that are expiring in the next 30 or 60 days that you can take action on, either to, talk to the customer or just to know that there's a renewal coming up. And you can then create a kind of a shopping cart. You can do multiple devices at the same time. And the beauty of it is once you go through the checkout process and pay for it, the licenses become active within the system, meaning that you no longer have to worry about having a license key that you have to then go into My Zyxel and to load it in for each one of those devices and manage all those keys yourself. You could just pick and name those devices as your customer devices and be able just to checkbox what device they are. If you want the whole bundle, you check that off and you go through the checkout process again for, you can do that for multiple customers all at the same time. So it allows for you to make it makes it easier for you to handle the recurring revenue opportunities that are there, essentially managing all of that and provide you, a great experience without having to worry about waiting for, 1 or 2 days for a license and all that to get that going through. So we're able to do that very easily and very quickly. So it gets you the keys, pretty much immediately. And it gives you from a single pane again, all of your assets. So all of the devices that are there, you can sync devices and organizations from Nebula now. So Nebula is tied into Circle. So all of your Nebula devices that are there, you can then do all of the licensing for the Nebula, for the security platform, or for the security portions of the license, if you have our USG Flexes or ATPs, you can sync those devices onto, from my Zyxel within the Circle system and be able to pay for them just the same as you would in a standalone device. So you can manage both cloud devices and also standalone devices there. And again, it makes it simple, because without Circle, it can take 3 days sometimes if you're ordering it through maybe through whatever channel you're ordering it from. But through Circle, it can probably take you less than 10 minutes to get those licenses active. It just depends on how quickly you knew which device you want to choose, which licenses you need to renew, and your checkout process. So it's really not that long, just a few minutes there. But again, once you've activated, once you purchased it, then it goes into, and it's synced into the accounts. And especially with Nebula, it's all then auto activated, and then you could just connect it through the alignment there. And or if you have other licenses that are outside that you've purchased, you can still also redeem them in the Nebula platform itself. So it still accepts the standalone codes and the license keys if you still have them, or you purchase them from other channels. You can still go in and load it outside of Circle. So we can still make that connectivity. We can align also now with the Nebula platform, and with the integration with Circle, you can then align all your different services maybe for that organization. So let's say you're managing not only the security appliance, the security licenses, you have multiple switches on that organization or that site, and you have multiple access points, and you need to manage licenses. And maybe if you installed them kind of at different points in time, there could be kind of a mismatch where you have maybe the security appliance you installed later, so that's expiring in December, but then your access points are just are expiring in November, and you want them to kind of line up. What you can do is then use the system and be able to align them so that they all are expiring basically within the same month, so that you have a point of billing to your customers. So you can just then bill in November for the following year, and it'll be all fine, or bill in December or whatever it may be, to get it all activated there. But also you can then go kind of have opportunity to manage kind of a monthly billing or even a quarterly billing type system as well. As long as you have the devices are up to date, they will always keep functioning in terms of its licensing if it's always up to date. And you can just charge as you feel, as you need for for your customer. So some customers like charge from upfront, kind of do upfront charging, but a lot of them will do maybe initial fee, but then they just go month to month and have some sort of contract that is in place with that customer. So it's a lot of times either 1 or 2 year type contracts, or maybe some of the bigger deployments, we've seen 3 to 5 year contracts that are there. You can have access again to all the licensing. You can see that the extension information, you can select the date that you want it to align to, and then it will handle it for you. And then give you kind of the appropriate checkout, what kind of information, what packages need to be, purchased and such. So then you can go through that process, and then you go check out through Circle. And again, all of your kind of partner loaded pricings would appear there as well. You can then manage, a lot of devices now, because again, we have a full comprehensive portfolio, a wide range of solutions, from security, from switches and access points that span across a lot of different products. So it can fulfill a lot of different needs, whether it be a small application, small installation, or maybe a doctor's office, or you can have a school, or we have several senior living facilities that are using fully enabled Nebula platform. So we're that for their gateways, for their wireless, for their switching networks, all in one. So we have kind of 3 series of products. The high end is called our Ultimate series, and that includes our advanced ATP firewall, again, which is what we just integrated into Nebula. We have our Nebula Pro switches, like our 2200s, our 1350s, and our XS 3800s that are providing, full Pro, includes 1 year of Nebula platform Pro there as well, with 10 gig uplinks and all that. Or our high-end WAX series, WAC series, again, also including 1 year of Nebula there, using Wi-Fi 6 and Wi-Fi 5 technologies to provide smart antenna capabilities and kind of wireless mitigation of interference mitigation. Now, the ATP is unique as well because we partner with and some leading specialists there like McAfee, WebRoot, Lastline, Trend Micro, Bitdefender to providing all of the capabilities that the ATP can do, including that sandboxing and the reputation filter, as well as content filtering, anti-malware, web filtering, and IDP type services and things like that. So be able to do application control, being able to control like things like Netflix or BitTorrents, be able to block all that block that at the application level. We use these partners to do so. In the flexibility series, our UTM firewall, our USG Flex, that's probably our biggest seller because it's kind of that middle line. It's very flexible in being a functional non-UTM device, or it can be turned into a full-blown UTM. The only difference between the USG Flex and the ATP is pretty much that sandboxing and IP reputation filtering. That's the differences between the two models. But otherwise, from a UTM perspective, the USG has all the same UTM type functionalities as the ATP. The USG Flex series, like our Nebula Flex series in our switches, our 1920s, our 1930 series, those all provide, again, these are kind of our bread and butter type devices for most Nebula type applications, or even just flexible applications, both standalone and in the cloud. And then our NWA access points series, our 1000 series and 200 series there provide you even still Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 5 in that kind of environment. So these kind of pair well together. Now, you don't have to necessarily just use these ones to, for a application. You could mix and match with, both flexibility series and ultimate series type products if you need to. Just again, depends on the application. And that's where our sales team and our engineering team will work with you to kind of figure out what's best for kind of those applications, give you options that you can choose and promote to and propose to your customers on maybe what works better for them in terms maybe of budget, could be a lot of other things. And then on the lower end side, on the simplicity side, if you're just looking for more plug and play type devices, we have our small business switch. Our 1915 series is going to be available in Q1 of next year. And that's kind of like a, more than just a basic managed switch or web managed switch, kind of that similar as our 1900 series, but now be able to be Nebula managed as well. So we have that kind of entry level switch that can be managed. And then we just launched our USG 20 series into Nebula as well. So if you're looking to deploy large amounts of VPN endpoints, maybe into the small remote offices and provide still, content filtering type services, the USG 20 is now available within the Nebula platform. And then we're also we're getting our NWA 50 series, which is kind of our low entry level Wi-Fi 6 access points into the Nebula platform as well. So that's all available there for just those kinds of mass deployment. Now, even with Nebula also comes as a free option as well. So some of those pro devices that we saw earlier in the previous screens, those ones have 1 year of pro pack of Nebula enabled. But a lot of these flex ones, they are, they're as an optional add-on service. So they just you have to add on, those kinds of services to that. But you can still use all of these tiers can still use a free Nebula. So there's a base pack, and I'll talk about here what it is. Our base pack is a license-free feature that all of the devices that can be used in Nebula can be part of. Now, you have to remember that the organization itself, the entire organization for that customer would have to be base pack in order for it to be, kind of part of the free. If you want any one of those sites to be, any higher or have maybe the plus functionality or the pro pack functionality, then the entire organization has to also follow suit. So you just have to kind of keep that in mind when you are building out your sites and things, depending on how you're managing it, how you're charging your customers, whether they are on a base pack, which is all free, or on the pro pack, which gives them a lot more advanced functionality and management functionalities as well. So the main difference between like base pack and pro pack, we have a kind of a cheat sheet, a battle card that you can ask your sales rep to provide for you if you don't have one already. And it shows kind of the features, the main functionalities that are in each one of these tiers, and what you can see the benefits of that. One main difference is that the base pack only has 7 days of log. You can't clone sites. But you can still do provisioning. You can do all of your configurations, things like that in the base pack. The pro pack has 365 days of logs that we keep in the cloud, and it can do site cloning and do a lot more features that have access to like the topology of the network, to be able to do a lot more of that troubleshooting as well. So it's more on that management side and functionality side if you're needing more of those features. Now we have introduced what we call an MSP pack. This is if you are looking as a managed service provider to needing these extra kind of efficiency functions as an MSP. It allows for you to do like cross-organizational management. Before, you could only manage within you can individually manage the organizations as their own entities. But with the MSP pack, you can actually do things that are kind of like cross-management of organizations, or you can transfer sites from one organization to another organization if you needed to. So that's kind of the basis of that. And the MSP pack is kind of an add-on pack to any of those base pack, plus pack, or pro pack. And the one of the things that we've added to the MSP pack is what we call real-time alerts for the MSP level. Before, in the organization, each one of the organizations, you would have to enable maybe like an alert or notifications on each one of those organizations. But with the MSP pack, you actually can create an alert that can apply to all organizations or a select group of organizations and sites. So you can do kind of a higher level alerting system and set that up without having to go through, maybe if you have hundreds of customers, having to go through hundreds of them to modify maybe how the system alert is doing and what should be alerted, and et cetera. So you can do that now with the MSP pack. From the security license standpoint, because again, these ATPs within Nebula use the same licenses as if they were in the standalone mode. So in this case, for ATP series, they use the gold security pack that you see on the far right. When advanced UTM, when you need that sandboxing capability, it includes, the ATPs include 1 year of Nebula as well in the Nebula Pro pack. So when you subscribe to, and as long as you're subscribed to the year of UTM services within the gold security pack, then you automatically inherit the Nebula Pro pack too, and it's all aligned within that same time period. So it makes it very convenient for you to do that. So when you want the best in security and you want Nebula, that's already there in that one single pack. So that makes it, again, easy for you to renew, easy for you to manage, and all that in there. The other products, like our USG20, only has like a content filtering pack. So it's a very specific license for just the content filtering. It gives you content filtering, gives you some reporting, gives you some more information, but doesn't give you the Nebula access. So you still have to buy the Nebula cloud licenses on top of it. The USG Flex series gives you licenses for the secure Wi-Fi function, or you can subscribe to the UTM security pack. The UTM security pack gives you that antivirus, intrusion detection, the content filtering, the web filtering type functionalities there in that one bundle. But again, it does not include the 1 year pro pack of Nebula. So it's still flexible in that, you may not need to have, you may be using it in standalone mode, but don't need to go to cloud yet. You can always then go to cloud, later on. So that's kind of the way that you have to have both the Nebula cloud license as well as the yearly subscription for any of the UTM functions or add-on functions that you're there. So again, it still provides you kind of multiple avenues for recurring revenue, not only from management standpoint and in putting into the cloud and giving that visibility, but then you still have your revenue opportunity as a security platform to providing these UTM services. We have a lot of customers who come in and say, how do I block BitTorrent? How do I block people from going to these types of websites or this kind of social media and blocking? How do I do that? So we provide, through these UTM services and licenses, the ability for you to offer that as a service. So a lot of our partners have kind of level tiers of what they have their customers subscribe to. So there's an entry level where there's, we will do your security firewall kind of maintenance and VPN connectivity, but then they can go and subscribe to web filtering, ransomware blocking, and malware protection, higher level of security, and deploy a USG Flex or an ATP series, depending on the application. So that's like kind of the basis of how you can use USG Flex and the ATP series as kind of like a recurring revenue opportunity for you as a business. And that's where I think most service providers, most managed service providers are moving towards in providing these kinds of services, because it's not something that you could just pick up, and just install yourself. It requires some level of expertise. You can't just flip a couple switches and then know that it's protected. You need somebody who is trained, who has knowledge about what a network is and how to segregate networks and how to provide the adequate UTM protections for whatever application they're using. So it really relies on you as value-added resellers to add that value, to add that expertise on these types of products. So that's where we really rely on you, and we're gonna provide more training, more access to a lot of the documentation and information on specific applications. So every month we also have kind of a security how-to kind of webinar that's part of the Tech Talk, and we go through kind of some details of how to do certain types of configurations for different types of applications. So if you want to check out some of those webinars in the past that we've had, please check those out. You'll see those, and definitely worthwhile if you're looking into this whole security aspect and how to configure things. So in the different contexts of the license packs here, you can see what kind of features are included. Again, the gold pack has that sandboxing reputation filter, and the pro pack. This one is not part of a cheat sheet or a battle card, but we'll make it into one and to help you guys out to seeing the main differences between those licenses. So we're here to connect together and provide a now holistic solution within the Nebula platform for our security, our wireless, and our switching networks. So these are the different products that are available. You can see our ATP series, our USG Flex series, and now our USG 20s available in both standalone and in the Nebula Cloud, and the NCC packs that are included. And then our wireless, we have a full array of wireless solutions that are supported in standalone and in the Nebula Cloud, and what packs are included, whether it be a 1-year pro packs included, or it's just part of the Nebula free platform that you can then add and flex into Nebula as you need to. And then our switch, these are our higher end AAPs, our WAC AX. And then on our switching side, we have our Nebula switches, which are then being phased out, being replaced by all of our GS and XGS and our XS switches here on this table. So again, a full array of anything you need: 8-port, 24-port, 48-port, with and without PoE, 10 gig uplinks or multi-gig connectivity. Any of those ports are available then for any kind of application. And we found that a lot of, this covers probably 80–90% of our applications that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. So again, these are all our bread and butter type products, and what we can then manage, or what you can buy in the cloud. So whether it be on Circle, which is what we want you to be, if you are currently still buying through Marketplace at the Zyxel side, make sure you convert to Circle. And Marketplace for partners is kind of going away. It's going to be used more for just end users who we don't have any kind of partner relationship with, that just need to buy, buy licenses for themselves, just at a higher price than the street price. So we just have that to manage for those kinds of channels. But we want you to be on that Circle Cloud, be able to do that subscription alignment, redeem different licenses, also buy different key delivery as well. So you could still, through the licensing store on Circle, if you want to buy just the key for a specific device model, you can still do that, and it will email deliver you, or in your account will have a the license key that you can then go and take and sell to another, to your customer, or to load it into your end customer's account. So we know we have that opportunity for you to do that through that. And if you are not part of our partner program, we invite you to join the partner program. As a new partner, you start out in the silver tier, and to maintain that, you just have to do $6K per half year, so $1K a month to maintain your silver. And that's pretty much just like a couple of firewalls, like a month, like if that. If you have one project, you pretty much will satisfy it for probably for your year, or for your half year there, to maintain silver. But we want you to get to gold. It's only a 12K commitment, which is again, I say commitment, but it's there's no cost to you, as long as you can do basically 12K in business, which is 2K a month. You can get to the gold tier, and gives you that max amount of distribution discounts, or through distribution. And we work through DNH, Ingram Micro, Synix, Wave, Target, and Pace to provide you the products. And I know some of you are still struggling, and we know in this day and age, the products itself are hard to come by. There's still 60 something ships that are sitting outside of Long Beach here in the west in California area where we're from. But hopefully that's coming up soon, and they're continuing to work through it. And it's going to be a while before it will be cleared out, and that's what kind of the projections are. But we do have product coming. You'll see a lot more products in your back orders and shipments that are coming that will satisfy through the kind of the end of October, early November timeframe. So maybe just a couple more weeks, you might start seeing stuff get shipped out to you or to your distributor. So we're looking forward to getting that, and kind of hoping that kind of clear things out, and we can work through. Again, thank you for your patience for that as well. If you want to connect with us on YouTube or on LinkedIn, you can do that. And then you can go to Zyxel America channel on YouTube, or Zyxel-US-channel on LinkedIn to connect with us. Now, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. If you want to scan that QR code, that will take you to the Zyxel community website, which you can also then ask through the forums and things like that. Any questions you may have, or any kind of product ideas or product enhancement ideas. But feel free to use the Q&A section now if you'd like to ask me any questions. If you want to find out more about Nebula, you can scan this ticket. You can scan that QR code, and it will take you to our Nebula solutions, further solutions page. So you can kind of look in, dive in deeper, find out more information about what's, all the different products and all the solutions that we have available there. What features are not currently integrated into Nebula for ATP? I'll have to get you a list there, Jack. They told me all the main features are there. Because the USG Flex already has that baseline feature. So all the baseline features of USG Flex, and they've added the main features of the ATP, which is the sandboxing functionality and the reputation filters. Now, if there are certain features that you're using, you can always ask our support to find out more if that is in Nebula. But as far as I know, all of the major features that are there, that's also included as Nebula for USG Flexes are also there. Because that's kind of the base sub base there that's being used for that. But the ATP, the main importance of the ATP, the main differentials are in there because of the IP reputation, or the reputation filters, and the sandboxing functionality. So you can scan this code, this little ticket. It's really cool. You can just put your phone up to the screen and go onto your photos there and get to that website. Oops. If there's no other questions, actually, Richard has a question. Which is quicker for pushing Wi-Fi settings, the dedicated controller function inside the firewall or Nebula? It kind of depends on how you're deploying it. If the firewall itself is being managed within the Nebula platform, then everything should just go through Nebula, because then it'll just be faster, because all the devices will be then handled through that central location. You probably wouldn't want to mix it unless the firewall, you're just having it off Nebula. You just want it just to stay as a standalone. Then it's kind of not that different. It's just a matter of if you want to get visibility in Nebula, because if you use the firewall to provision it, to push like Wi-Fi changes, then it's being managed by that firewall. So you'll then only have access to any changes by logging into that firewall directly, right? You won't have any Nebula visibility. So you would want to, if you want the Nebula visibility of the access points, then you would have to flip them into the full Nebula. So you want to do that. Is there any way of importing a currently installed ATP into Nebula so you don't have to start from the ground up? Unfortunately, there is not. Just like the USG Flex, because of the way the structures of the configurations between the two platforms are different. When you want to put an existing port in an existing device into Nebula, it has to get converted into the Nebula platform. So unfortunately, what you want to do is you maybe want to save your existing in case you want to go back to that standalone, and in case you want to get back to that standalone time frame, grab that configuration, you can save that somewhere and convert it into Nebula. But once you go to the Nebula, I mean, in general, it's fairly simple, simplified, unless you're doing very complex scenarios. But yeah, unfortunately, in order to get there now, of course, existing, or if you're deploying a new application anyways, then your initial installation will be kind of same as what you would normally do in a standalone application. You still have to configure it. Now, the advantages of using the cloud platform is once you have a cookie cutter of an ATP in the Nebula, then you can just use that cookie cutter and load that kind of base configuration in Nebula to any devices that you want to configure. So you can clone sites that way using the Pro. So it takes advantage of you being able to access and be able to mass configure a lot more devices that way. How do I convert a standalone ATP to Nebula? So we have instructions. It's the same as our USG flexes today on how to do it. You basically have to just convert it to 5.1 and it will give you access to some information. But if you want to reach out, I think we have an FAQ as well. Reach out to your sales team. We have a document that our tech support team has made that kind of walks you step by step on how to convert a standalone ATP into the Nebula platform. So just check with them on that, and we can get that to you. Let's see, Richard asks, is it possible to easily allow non-technical end users to manage Wi-Fi device associations? We tried this about 6 months ago, and it was cumbersome for them to learn. I'll have to see, Richard, maybe if you can reach out to your sales rep. We can talk to our product manager for the Wi-Fi side and the Nebula side to see how maybe those things can be managed or be able to give access to. And maybe, maybe based on your feedback, because again, we work with partners to try to find ways to make it easier for you guys. And so if you are able to provide, what you're trying to do, maybe that will help us to kind of change the way that things are either displayed, or maybe there's an easy mode or something like that for Wi-Fi that you enabled for your customers to do, for your end users to manage their own, kind of, that could be something pretty interesting for that. So that it can, we can maybe add extra buttons, or maybe a dashboard view that makes it, easier for your customer to do that. And so you can give access to them for that view. So that could be something, but definitely reach out to us. We like to work with that to see how we can make it easier, make it better for you. All right. Seems like we're coming up on the last 3 minutes. Again, if you don't have any questions, if you have any questions as you think about our solution here and using Nebula, you can always feel free to reach out to me, and I can direct you to where maybe the best place is to get the answers. My email is try@zyxel.com. And so it's TRI@zyxel.com. And so love to hear from you. Thank you for being a Zyxel partner or looking at being a partner. We're here to be your networking ally, and we would hope to be able to, work with you and on a different projects and whatever to get your, make sure that you have the right solutions and the right products, and be able to use it in a way that will be best fitting for your customers. So definitely use this as a resource. Use your sales reps there, who can then pull in our systems engineers to help you with all of those aspects of that. So definitely take advantage of that. Again, thank you so much for spending this morning or this afternoon with me. Look forward to seeing you at another Tech Talk sometime soon. Until then, thank you.